morning, everybody.
Good morning, everyone.
How is everybody today?
Doing good. How are you
Good.
guys doing?
Good.
Good. We are great. Today, you guys, I have my niece Raiyne in studio, and she is going to be talking to us about our topic today. So, anyway, Raiyne, before we get started, welcome to another show. Let's hope and pray that we don't have any issues. We think that we've got it all figured out, but I'm not sure. I want to say thank you to everybody that was so patient with me last week, because last week was a super morbidly crazy, fun show, but I feel like all the technical difficulties and glitches mess it up for us. So anyway, what y'all think about old Ed Gein, for those of you that watched? And those of you that hit us up on the replay, go ahead and leave your comments because I'm curious how you feel. I feel like we have a modern day Ed Gein on our hands. What do you think, Jamie?
This one is a lot, in my mind, is a lot worse than
Yeah.
Ed Gein. Big time.
I guess we'll, as we get into it, we'll discuss some of the similarities on their personality. But
Is that
anyway,
what you meant? Was that what you meant when you asked me, like,
yeah,
drawing the similarities, I guess,
some
to
of
the
the
two?
dynamics in his raising.
Yeah, there's definitely some similarities there, and I would say, like, they're both just bad. Like, it was bad for both of them. Just terrible, to be honest with you. I don't know that this is a contest that either one can win. I
Right.
think they both get lumped in there, and it's like, as your child selves, I'm so sorry, and I'm so heartbroken for y'all. Like, no child should have to do what you did. Unfortunately, you did more after that.
Unfortunately, you were a little extra with that childhood.
Yeah. Morning, Brenda.
Good
How are
morning,
you?
Bryn. Thanks for watching. Raiyne. So I know that Raiyne has been prepping like crazy. She's been
Yeah,
sending
that
me
makes
notes.
one of us at least, Rain. Thank you.
She's been taking notes. And tell us a little bit about yourself, how you became a crime junkie.
Okay, so it basically all started whenever it was like my junior year of high school, and we watched this documentary called Evil Genius in my government class, and I was like, well, this is just crazy. And so I would watch like Bailey Sarian. She does makeup and Murder Mystery Mondays.
Yes.
I love that woman.
Yeah, she makes me laugh.
Yeah, my wife told me about her years ago, and then I was like, Sandy, you told me about it again because you said Rain said, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is oddly satisfying to watch and listen.
Oh, I know. I love all of her makeup tips, and I'm like, if only I could do it, a part of that.
I
That'd be
know.
amazing.
I think I could stomach this sometimes.
The way she tells it. Yeah, I really like how she tells it.
It's just her like reactions, and when she's like you just.
She's like, sorry, I had to fast forward through that. I messed up right there, so I didn't want you to have to see all that.
Right. And I love her theme song.
I don't remember that.
I have that theme song memorized.
Like, Sandy.
Shana sha, shana sha.
I don't remember it.
I don't want to butcher it, of course. We'll leave the butchering to our serial killers. Thank you.
That was good.
So this week's suggestion, guys, came from a Facebook fan that may or may not be related to the Green River Killer. Thank you for that suggestion, fan. And so let's jump into it. Oh, also, Annie is still up for adoption, people. She's been in foster care 18 months. Go out and get her. But other than that, let's go ahead and start talking about this little monster, okay?
Okay.
Well, what's his name?
His name was Gary Ridgway.
Gary Leon Ridgway. He was born February 18th, 1949 in Salt Lake City. Gary was a middle child of 3 boys. And I'm just curious of how his brothers turned out, to be honest. I didn't even look at that part of it. Because they're raised by the same parents.
What was his name again?
Gary Leon Ridgway. Good morning, Rod. Thanks for joining us today. So anyway, he was the middle child of 3 boys. His family moved to Washington State and purchased a home close to Pacific Highway South. And that will come near and dear to this story. So that Pacific Highway South is also where a lot of our sex workers worked. And so again, that will be also a huge topic in this story. So anyway,
Is this in Washington?
say that again.
Was this in Washington?
Yes, Washington State. Yes, sir.
Okay, so I just want to show everyone real quick. Oops, sorry, wrong button. That's the wrong button too. I'm going to get it right this time.
Okay.
So just so for point of reference, you can see this is the Washington or the Pacific Highway. So just so you kind of get an idea of where we're looking at.
Yeah, so there's going to be a lot of stuff that SeaTac is familiar based on this story.
It's all right there. This little highway right here. There's SeaTac right there.
Yeah, so there was where is the Green River? I guess that would be good to let's find the Green River. After seeing this, it's the place that I would never want to visit.
Over here. Okay, there we go.
Okay, so it's a long stretch of river, huh?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
It looks like it goes. Yep.
Wow. Because I always thought, like, how are you not finding these people?
Yeah, it goes all the way.
Because there was
hi, James. Thank you so much for tuning in to us today. Hope
What's
you're
up,
well.
guys? That's my buddy right there.
Oh, okay, awesome. Thank you so much for watching. Okay, so Jane, what is this guy's name? Gary. I'm like, no, that's not his name.
That's not James.
Wrong person. Wrong James. So this little family, they appeared to be the all-American family, right? But they were far from it.
That's how they all appear, Sandy. Every time you bring me on every weekend, they all appear to be the same American family.
But let me just tell you this. Usually when Jamie calls me after I send him a podcast and tell him, hey, this is what I'm doing this week, Jamie's like, Sandy, really? Jamie's never, ever been excited about any of my topics. Although last night when he called me, he was actually pretty giddy about this. Giddy in a morbidly giddy way.
It really was morbidly giddy, too. I told Sandy, I called her up. I was on the highway and I was like, Sandy, I don't know how. I was like, I'm really interested in this. There's so much to dissect here. There's so much to uncover. And it's gross. It's nasty. But guys, you have to understand, one of the things that I do like is I love to understand about sociopaths and psychopaths. Now, I don't research it at all in terms of, the mentality is that all psychopaths and all sociopaths are killers. That's far from the truth. Media has played that well enough to think that that's the case. Most sociopaths and psychopaths are doing pretty well living next door to you, which probably makes sense why they're the whole typical American whatever.
Isn't there a statistic that like every 8th person has murdered somebody or something?
Murdered someone? I don't think that's what it is.
I probably just made that up.
Yeah, I think in all of the shows that you've watched and all the cases you've read, that probably holds true in that statistic. So.
Right? Maybe 1 in every 8 shows that I watch.
Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, Gary's mother was very domineering, and mother was domineering last week?
Ed's mom.
Ed's mama. Okay, so she was said to be verbally and physically abusive to everyone in the family and especially to her husband. He never defended himself from her attacks, and this made Gary very angry. Okay, so here we go. Here we go with the family dynamics that we were talking about, okay? He hated that his father never stood up to her, and he hated the way his mother treated all of them. People say that Gary wanted to be the exact opposite of how his dad was. His mother would ridicule him, making fun of him. Gary's mother would ridicule Gary for wetting the bed. Huh?
Oh, no. I thought you were saying ridicule her husband.
Oh, yeah. She ridiculed everybody, but in particular Gary, because he wet the bed, and she would make fun of him in front of his friends and his brothers. Guys, listener discretion is advised, okay? So here's where this starts to take an even crazier, sadder, weirder twist. She would force him into a cold bath and hand wash him and tell him that she was washing his dirtiest parts, which were his genitals. And this would occur between the ages of 11 and 13. And another disturbing part to all of this is that she was barely dressed herself. So,
There's gonna be lots of disturbing parts to this, guys.
yeah,
Everyone, so just be warned. This is not for the kiddos.
not
Please do not let your kids listen to this unless y'all do that kind of. Never mind, that didn't come out right. Help me out, Sandy. What am I trying to
let's
say? Unless
just
y'all
say
watch this
listener
kind of stuff.
discretion is
Thank
advised.
you. Sorry.
So, okay, so she was barely dressed doing all of this. So let's think about this. Boys hit puberty generally what ages? Like
13.
11, 12, 13, 14, late bloomers, maybe 15.
Yeah.
So here you have your mother who is dressed, barely dressed, and then she's scrubbing your areas. And then she's talking all these things to him. I mean, his brain is just going all sorts of crazy. And so you can see where he's developing issues. I mean,
So yeah, let's just break that down real quick a little bit, Sandy. I'm not the expert, but my wife has talked to me enough. I've actually looked at some stuff because one of the reasons this interests me so much was because just the psychology of what's his name again? I don't know why I keep forgetting his name, but
Gary.
anyway, Gary, the psychology. Yeah, Raiyne, I just get into it because I am always interested in how the mind works, how the brain works, and how things are put together, and why we do things that we do, and how much of it is actually decided for us before we even think to do it. Anyway, besides all that, so yeah, he's at an age where he's very impressionable, and never mind the fact that all the stuff that's already happened to him up to this point, when he's already being technically, you could say, like an abusive home. In a home, not just him, but his father, him, who we don't even know what's going on with the siblings, to be honest with you.
right.
But having that mentality, your brain is developing. You guys got to remember, your brain does not stop developing until you're 25. Until you're 25 years old, your rationale for making decisions in life is managed by your amygdala. And so your
Yes, I was going to
amygdala,
say medulla oblongata, but that was wrong.
your amygdala is what regulates emotions, or lack of, right now. And so as children, we decide based on how we feel, not necessarily logical. Something weird happens when we get to be 25, though. Our brain stops developing and growing. It's finished its final development, and we switch from making decisions from our amygdala to our frontal lobe. Our frontal lobe is what helps us make logical decision making. And so when you're a child, emotions, that's why we get crazy with our kids when they're like, why are y'all so emotional? Why are you always, good Lord, jeez, calm down. It's not the end of the world. But for this poor kid going through that, his brain is making all these connections and helping him understand how to take on the world. And so for his mom to be doing that to him, his brain is making connections it should not be making to be
Right.
a normal, productive citizen of society.
Right.
Sorry.
Just another thing too. So his mother and father were really inappropriate with some of the things that they told him. So his mother worked at a clothing store and fitting men for suits, and she would tell Gary that while she was measuring them, that they would get aroused, and so she would explain all the stages of their arousal and also what they smelled like. Like, what in the actual F are you thinking as a parent? I mean, listen, I'm the world's okayest parent. I'll tell you that right now. I have failed time and time again, but those conversations were never had. I mean, I don't encourage it by any means. So Gary used to have two competing fantasies about his mother. One would be a sexual fantasy about her, how he would come home and she was laying out in her bathing suit, or sometimes she was topless. And then his second fantasy, he fantasized about torturing her and killing her. And so anyway, cue Gary's father and his ridiculousness in here. Gary's father worked at a morgue, and he would come home and tell Gary about a coworker that would have relations with the bodies. So, I mean, okay, I'm not defending, I'm not justifying, I'm just trying to let you know Gary had a very strange foundation to begin. I mean, that was laid down by his parents. No.
No, you're absolutely right. My brain is trying hard to figure out. I'm like, there's really no good way to say that. Like, you're
Yeah.
absolutely accurate. It's just, we study this stuff so we can know the mind of a killer, so we can know how people work. And believe it or not, guys, this is stuff that people know and research. My wife trips me out when she tells me some of the stuff that she's like, you think you have free will, but there's stuff that's documented and they can tell what kind of person you behave or what all this, like profilers, they know this because it's a science. It's something that's been measured. And so when we talk about this background that this guy had, you look at it and you think, yeah, it makes sense.
We are talking about Gary Ridgway, the Green River Killer. Thanks for watching, Shell. You still need to be on the show.
Let me cut in real quick, guys. You've seen this Venmo down here at the Pineapple Project. I'm not going to talk a lot about Sandy, but I just want to let you know this is a charity.
This is a fundraiser that we're doing, a charity for the Christmases for Kids. And yeah, I was going to have you talk about it there at the end before we signed off.
Okay, we can go in detail later, but just so you guys know, this is a legitimate charity that we are doing. We'll talk about it at the end of the show, okay? Sorry,
yes,
Sandy.
for sure. So it's Shell's asking, so let me type it in, Gary Ridgway.
I got it. You keep talking.
Okay, so it's Gary Ridgway without an E. So anyway, okay, so let's focus. Let's go back to this. So Gary, I mean, I can't reiterate this enough. Gary's parents were hella inappropriate. This is stuff that never should be discussed with a kid. And honestly, it's uncomfortable having Raiyne talk about it.
What do you think, Raiyne? I'm just curious. You've been kind of silent. You've heard everything we've said so far. What are some of your thoughts so far?
Well, when I was researching this, because I was at school when I was doing this, and I was in the laundry, I was folding towels, I would stop and I'm like, why would he do this? To just women in general. I was watching something where they said they live right by the Green River and they think well, what if we see a body floating or something? And I'm like, oh, I wouldn't want to see that. It's just.
What do you think about his parents though? What do you think about that upbringing?
He should have been brought up different. I would never want parents like that.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. It's not something that, so that makes it such a good point. Like yesterday, back then, things were different, right? Today we see stuff like that and we have to speak up, guys. So when you see kids just being a little
different,
I don't know, no, I mean being treated in public differently than what you would feel like, it's okay to speak up. It's okay to say something. It's okay to call someone. It's okay to call the police and be like, yeah, because worst case scenario, you were wrong. Yeah, that's fine. But
but at least you did your part.
Double negative worst case scenario would be is that kid was being hurt like this guy, and maybe you're cutting off a killer before they're made. I don't know, something like that. But anyway.
I know. Honestly, I just think, and I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, am I a domineering person? I think about how am I raising my kids?
Right. When we hear these stories, that's one of the things that I was thinking of too, Sandy. I'm like, his parents were just brutal. Sharing these inappropriate. I've always been one to share with the girls truth, my daughters, but we don't talk about. And when we do talk about things that could be inappropriate, we give it proper names.
Right.
We say we say when we talk about private parts, we say the penis and vagina. That's just the way it is. We're not going to be weird in the house.
So funny story. When Cade was super little, he had a speech impediment. And so he couldn't pronounce his R's and his L's. So anyway, I would always tell him, don't touch your business in public. Mm-hmm. And so one time we were out in public and he found some business cards. And I said, what are those? And he said, what are these? And I said, business cards. And he looked at me and he's like, business cards. It was the cutest thing ever because I referred to his junk as business. So yeah, I don't know. It's cute I didn't know a way to be appropriate with him at his age and I didn't want him saying those words at school. So we just called it business.
And that's fine too. But yeah, this guy, I mean, yeah, Raiyne, I wouldn't want anyone to have a life like he did, or anything close to it even.
Mm-hmm.
So
anyway, let's go back to Gary. His formative years were spent with both his parents normalizing sex and necrophilia. One thing that makes Gary kind of unique is that he didn't display a lot of his dysfunction at school. He was described as outgoing, fun, and well-liked. He did, however, have the normal serial killer stuff going in. He was abusing animals. He did set fires, but that was done, I think, more in private, because it really wasn't said that, because in the interview, they interview some people and they're like, yeah, he asked me to be his best man. I mean, he was super normal. And I guess you can say that about Ted Bundy as well. Bundy.
And so the little piece here, Ted Bundy was definitely genius level. His IQ was like superb, where Ridgway, his IQ was only like 82, 86
or something. Yeah, something.
And so,
yeah.
I mean, he was on the lower side of normal, a little bit under. I think normal is 90 to 110, I think is what it was. Anyway, so yeah, not really anything that would be to
Not
write
really
home
anything
about.
outstanding.
Yeah, I hate to say it that way, but
Yeah.
And you guys, if you hear any of his confession tapes, because this guy was, what years was he around, Sandy? Let's put some time frame.
So he started in 82.
Okay, so 1982, guys, not 1882. Raiyne, do you remember when he was caught, or
he was caught on November 30th, 2001.
So we're celebrating his anniversary early.
Oh my god. That's so close, guys. So yeah, we're talking about someone who is within our generations right now. So just so you can get that time reference in. But yeah, anyway, go ahead.
Okay, so here's a turning point for Gary. When he was younger, he stabbed a boy. Gary was 16 years old, and he took a kid into the woods and stabbed him. And the boy survived, and he asked him why he did that, and Gary told him he just wanted to see what it felt like.
And he was nonchalant about it, guys. They said he did it, and he was all like, just swiped the knife and just looked, and it was
like everyday business. Let's go back to normal.
So we see that in movies sometimes, right? We see about how like the psychopath or the sociopath or whatever is they hurt animals, or they do things to hurt people and things like that. Like that part is not so media sensationalized. That part, there's some validity to that. So if you have a child who is hurting animals or people, siblings and stuff like that, wakes up in the middle of the night and is over your bed with a knife over you, you might want to
get Chucky checked on. Okay.
You might want to get some help in that. Okay. Okay. Don't wish it to go away. Don't pray it under the carpet. Get a doctor, please.
Get Chucky to get help. So anyway, we did talk about Gary's IQ. So Gary actually graduated at the age of 20, and he went on to marry. He joined the Navy, and he was shipped off to the Philippines. While there, he claims to have been forced to look for sex workers because his wife was back home. And he ended up catching a couple of STDs, and he blamed the sex worker. Okay. And in his confession, he says that because of this sex worker and the STD she gave him, he hated all sex workers. So when this was probably another turning point for Gary. Gary's going to have a lot of turning points in life, okay?
Really is.
So when he comes back home, he learns that his wife has had an affair, and he accuses her of becoming a whore and divorces her. And so honestly, when I heard that, I felt like, man, she dodged a bullet or a knife, or she dodged something.
A rope, a shovel,
a rock,
dirt,
a river.
Going on. Rock. Now that will come. I don't know if you're going to talk about that one later, but
yeah.
Anyway, so what's funny about this is, Raiyne, were you surprised that he got a wife, that he was able to get married?
A little bit, but his family did say that he was normal, but like kind of weird.
Yeah.
So
we all know those normal weirdies, right? I feel like I was one of those for a little while. So yeah.
And now you live in normal. Okay, so let's hop on over to 1972. Gary gets a job painting trucks. His neighbors, his coworkers would go on to say that he was an average guy, super nice, like Raiyne said, but a bit odd. But nothing out of the ordinary. Okay, he's so normal that he even gets married a second time, and he's able to spend more time with his second wife. One of his fetishes was having relations out by the Green River. And as time goes on, he starts getting rougher, starts getting violent with his escapades. And he is livid when he finds out that she's pregnant, and downright pissed when she couldn't engage in intercourse after having their son. So this takes a toll on the marriage.
This
And they
guy
do it.
has an extremely high libido. Let me just tell you, I was like,
Yeah.
good Lord, this
Like,
man was like, it. Just saying.
I'm like, is he ever going to get tired?
I mean, having a healthy libido is okay. It's fine, but we'll get into it more later, I think.
So also it should be noted that he hated her after this, and he said he should have killed her. And
Another one.
he also claimed that if he would have killed her, he probably wouldn't have gone after sex workers. Gary, your murders determined that was a lie, okay? Because you weren't satisfied with killing one, okay? Let's just go ahead and put that out there. Gary's a liar. So anyway, I don't know how how the second ex-wife feels, but I think that that divorce paper was probably the best thing that she'd ever seen and got out of that marriage.
Yeah.
So soon, shortly after the divorce, the killing starts. And on the weekends that he had his son, he would use him as the pawn in his schemes.
Guys, Sandy is not joking when she says the killing starts. Okay? Just be ready. Just buckle in, buttercups.
Yeah. Ready for this? So anyway, so after the killing started, these women that were still sex workers, that were still working on the Pacific Coast Highway or whatever, the South or whatever it was called, they would be like, hey, are you the Green River Killer? And he's like, no. They were like, let me see your ID. So he would whip out his ID, and then casually a picture of the son would fall out and be like, oh, and they would be like, oh, he's normal. Has a kid. And
or he would have like his toy cars on the dashboard to make his car look like homey and like safe.
Yeah. And so anyway, of course they would all feel comfortable, and he would bring them to his house. Okay. So a lot of these murders happened at his house, and he would show them the house, show them his son's room. And he goes on record to say that he was asked over 50 times if he was the Green River Killer. And he did murder someone while his son was with him.
Oh.
And he says his son didn't know or see anything that went on.
He didn't just murder someone while his son was with him. He murdered multiple people. You guys, you're not even ready here in a second when Sandy or Raiyne tell you how many.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't just murder someone with his son in the car kind of thing. Some of these murders, he would put the bodies in the car with his son in him. And his son would just be like, what's going on? Oh, we're taking him for a ride, son. And he would drive to a different state to dump a body off. So
y'all, this documentary that I watched, so y'all know typically I kind of like to get multiple sources. So I watched the documentary, I listened to a couple of podcasts, and I also just read some stuff online. The documentary was bone chilling, guys, because it's him confessing. Like, this is all him confessing.
His words.
He showed no remorse. And he described how he murdered his victims without even so much as flinching. It's like me just telling you a regular story. Hey, by the way, I went running today. Just a normal, casual conversation.
And there would be times where he's like, you can pin those murders on me, but I don't remember doing them. He's like, because I take pride in my work.
Yeah. Yeah. So he was held in a secret location while he was working on all these confessions. And he does cry in this documentary when he remembers his parents, is particularly his mother. And he said that he remembers them wanting to send him off to an institution. And he claims that when he killed, his self-hate would go away for that day. So he was okay with himself after he killed.
Which makes so much sense here, just from a psychological perspective, Sandy, Rain. Like you build up this frustration, and you both have been there, right? There are times where you get frustrated about something, you're angry, you just have emotions, and it's all this stuff. And either you go to Eric or you go to mom or whoever, and then you just like blah, you just unload everything out there, right? And then
Mhm.
afterwards, you're kind of like, okay, okay, I can handle the rest of the day. I'm okay now. And that's exactly the same situation here in my mind. I feel like, in his development, he's got all those emotions and those feelings that he's got from his mom and his dad and his childhood and stuff like that. So all these, they're not even repressed. They're just
Mm-mm.
there. They're there throughout his entire life. Not not like sometimes people repress those feelings and those memories. It didn't sound like he did. He just kept
Mm-mm.
them, and that's so horrible. The brain sometimes will do a thing where it represses it and keeps it to protect you. Not sure how it works out all the time for some and not others, but in this case, it didn't work out. And so having those feelings all his life, going through all these situations, and then when he does those killings, like it wouldn't surprise me that he's projecting his mom in
Yeah,
those murders,
for sure.
and then that's why he feels so relieved in whatever else. And then his mom, when she was doing those disgusting acts with him, that also kind of makes sense why, in case you guys missed it, the term that Sandy was talking about earlier, necrophilia, he was having sex with dead bodies. But guys, he wouldn't just do it like just once kind of thing. Like he
Mm-mm.
would come back after he'd already dug the body in or just laid it out somewhere. He'd come back and perform again.
Mhm.
It was disgusting, but I could see how, in a sense, there's that piece that mom was doing with him when he was young,
Mhm.
and then him coming back to those bodies and being like, there's this weird dichotomy of this hate and then this sexual, whatever you want to call it, there. And so he was needing to express both of those things out in these murders and whatnot. He was needing to kill his mom, but also have sex with his mom, perform incest. And so
And it's
these were
like that,
projections.
like Ed Gein, he went so far as to go pluck her head out of the out of the graveyard. So I mean, he had some emotions there too that, similar to
Yeah,
this guy, just in a different, strange, twisted way, I suppose.
yeah.
So, his first victim was Wendy Caulfield. She was 16 when she disappeared, and this was July 15, 1982. And shortly after, guys, a month to the day, they pulled out 4 more women from the river. Okay, so he's at this point he's averaging once a week. Okay, and he pulled out Deborah. She was 23. Marcia, she was 31. Cynthia was 17. Opal was 16. Giselle was 17. And so let's just go ahead and also say this. A lot of these teenage girls were sex workers. They were run away from home. Okay. And further on, we'll discuss a couple of things that this community had to say about that. So, another thing that Gary says in this documentary, he says that he realized he had a killing problem. Some of us have drinking problems. He's got a killing problem. I don't know. He said he wanted more fresh women to kill. He describes the murders like taking candy from a candy bowl because of the number of women there was to kill. I mean,
Real quick, you guys put in the comments how many kills you think Gary had
don't
without looking
Google.
up. Don't
Don't
Google.
Google.
Put in the comments how many you think you had, and then Sandy or Rain will tell us later on or here shortly. So, but start
Yeah.
putting your numbers in, okay? Sorry,
Yeah.
Sandy.
We're on our way to telling you because this is so intense. So, October of 1982, the FBI was called to prepare a psychological profile. And here's what they came up with: white male, mid 30s, might live with his mother, might be a loner. So, they also said that the person who is committing these heinous murders also might try to interject himself in the case. So I sent this clip to you guys on Snapchat. I don't know if y'all remember. I sent y'all a clip of Melvin Foster. So Melvin Foster is a cab driver. And so he comes in and says, I know all these women. So they interview because if you look at Melvin Foster is a white male, possibly mid-30s. He's also a taxi cab driver. And so during the interview, he's asked, "Do you know who killed all those women?" And Melvin says, "No, but I wish." No. They asked him, "Did you kill all those women?" And he says, "No, but I wish I did." And then he's like, "I wish I did know who did because I would put a stop to it." Do you remember that, Jamie?
No.
I sent it on Snapchat. He's like this super weird looking guy.
You sent it to the family shenanigans too.
Yeah, I sent it to the family because he's like, "No, but I wish I did." And I'm like, Freudian slip. But he's like, "Oh, I wish I knew who did." So anyway, Melvin is put under heavy surveillance for like the next several months. He's 24/7 watch, but the murders continue. And so they rule him out as a suspect. One of the detectives was like, he was super weird. Because he was. I mean,
they went to his house.
Yeah.
Looking at the camera saying, "I wish I did," look like he did.
Yeah, no, that's why they were like, "We got him." And I mean, everybody was like, "We got this Melvin," but Melvin was ruled out, you guys. And I don't know if Melvin ever did murder somebody, but he could definitely be a lineup, the suspect lineup. So, January of 1982, Linda Rule, she was 16 years old, and this was kind of one of the things that they noticed that Gary would do to bodies. So he burnt her hair. And a couple of other women had like broken bones. And this instance, he claimed that her hair was beautiful and it excited him to burn her hair and he wanted to hurt her more. And from March to April 1983, 6 more women were reported missing. Guys, you have to understand this little community is in a panic. Like they are like freaking out. They're scared to be, and they're interviewing people as they drive by and they're like, yeah, it's scary. We don't ever know who's going to be next. So then we have Maria Malvar, who is 18 and she's reported missing. Her boyfriend sees her climb into a pickup and the boyfriend follows this pickup, but he loses the pickup. And Maria Malvar's dad grabs the gun and tells the boyfriend, "Where did you last see her? What color was this pickup? And let's go." So guys, they find the pickup. Okay. They find this pickup. They call the police and they send an officer over to Gary's house. Okay. Gary convinces them that he wasn't involved. And Gary had gone to school with this police officer. So I think that was kind of easier why he got off so easy, because they're like, "Oh, Gary couldn't have done it. You know, he's strange, but he's not a murderer, right?"
Right.
In a strange twist of events, he later confesses that Maria was in the house when the officer went by. But I don't know if they were specific and said, yeah, he was, she was alive or she was dead. All I know is that Maria was in the house. We're not sure what form or what state she was in. So, y'all, this one was really heartbreaking. Well, I mean, they all are heartbreaking, don't get me wrong. But this particular one, in the documentary, he recalls a Carol, and she was a single mom. The single mom started dating him, and because he didn't have time for her, he murdered her.
Because she didn't have time for him.
She didn't have time for him. So this murder was different than the others, because when they found her body, she had a sausage on her forehead, a fish and a wine bottle were around her. So the interviewers were like, "Why did you have all this stuff?" They almost thought it was like some sort of religious, some sort of ceremonial type thing. And he said it was just symbolic of him throwing out the trash. And he just no longer needed her anymore.
Yeah. That one sounds a little bit more personal than any
Well,
of the
it was personal because they were dating. Like, he claimed to have loved her. He knew who his daughter was. He knew that she had a daughter. And so, yeah, this was a lot more personable. So, like, she was lonely. She found somebody that gave her attention, Gary, and he found in her what he was missing. But she also worked 2 jobs because she was a single mom providing for her daughter. And so one day he's trying to get some relations going, and she's like, "Hurry, because I got to go to work."
Get some relations going.
Yeah, he was trying to do the laundry, and she wasn't.
I'm not sure what you're saying. I'm
What
sorry.
I'm saying is, he
Laundry?
She was trying to
wanted
get down to
sex.
business.
What, Rain?
He was trying to get down to business, but she had to go to work.
So let's break it down even further for Jamie.
Yeah, I need to spell that a little bit. I'm like, what are we talking about again? Because business earlier was not touching yourself in public. Now,
No, so he wanted to have sex, and she had to go to her second job, and she was like, "Hurry up, because I gotta go." And that was a switch for him.
okay, that makes
That
sense.
that
Thank
was
you.
like,
I'm sorry.
okay,
I'm sorry.
no, you're fine, you're fine. He was like, "You're dead to me." So he killed her.
Stop this.
So he killed
Oh,
her. And then so the daughter is in this documentary talking about her dad came to pick her up and said, "Hey, your mom's never coming home." I mean, and so she had to grow up without a mom
what?
because of him.
I didn't hear that part in the one that I watched or listened to.
Yeah. And also
Wow.
too, this daughter will also speak at the court case, at the court hearing.
Okay. Okay.
So anyway, again, we have told you guys that he came back repeatedly until these bodies were decomposed, and even when they were decomposed. So a mother of a missing teenager claimed that these women were being, this is the community talking, I'm sorry. So there was a missing teenager, and the mother was like, "These women are being portrayed as if they were out there asking for it." And so the community was outraged. And the
Man.
media was saying, "Well, they're sex workers, what else do you expect?" type thing. And it is important to note that a lot of these girls were teenagers. He killed a woman that was 8 months pregnant. And he was like, the interviewer was like, "Did you know she was pregnant?" And he's like, "No, I didn't know." They were like, "She was 8 months pregnant. How do you not know?" And he was like, "Yeah, no, I didn't know that she was." So it's like he never admitted to that.
So that's funny that you say never admitted to that, because I forgot something about the second wife.
What?
So one day they're coming home, they get out of the car, and he snaps. And so he comes up from behind her and he starts choking her. Like choking her and choking her. And he's about to kill her. Something happened though. He lets go, runs behind the car back to the other side. And as she's coughing and getting her air back, he was like, "Someone just came, ran and choked you."
No way. I didn't see
Yes.
that.
Yes. I forgot about that. Yeah, she had bruises on her neck and everything. And she was like, "Yeah, okay, we'll go with that." That's why she left him.
Well,
That was the point where she was like, "Okay, yeah."
I'm out of here.
Yeah.
But she knew it was him.
Yes. Yeah, she knew. She said, she told the investigator, she was like, "I knew it was him. I don't know why he said it wasn't him." And when I heard that part at first, I thought, ooh, because then this is the part where it made me think. I was like, I wonder if he has dissociative personality disorder now. And I wondered if that was just because that would make sense. If he didn't repress the memories, then his brain kind of doing this whole like, well, then let's give you another personality to manage that.
Yeah.
But no, that's not what happened.
I'm like, really?
We do need to find someone though who did have dissociative personality disorder in your files somewhere, Sandy.
Oh, I'm sure I've got it.
That one would intrigue me.
So the last body that was found, you guys, was in 1983, and her name was Kimmy Kai, and she was 16 years old. So like I mentioned before, people came out in protest because of all of these murders, because they were all unsolved. And they formed the Green River Killer Task Force. And Gary was asked by detectives how many women he had killed in his house. And he told them at least 20 to 30 women in the house. So February 1984, they uncover 6 more women. And it's like every weekend someone is coming up across a body. And at first, like what it starts out with, like we were fishing and we saw these new shoes and we found what we thought was the mannequin. People, it's never a mannequin in the water. It is
Those
never a
are
mannequin in the water. This guy was like, he saw like this hair flowing with the river, and he's like, to this day, I hate water under hair. Like it just really bothers him. So he has PTSD of water in or hair underwater. I mean, if that's what he found, I mean, honestly, I always wonder how people's reaction is, and that's his reaction. Like that's bothered him forever.
I forgot something else. There was someone who got away. There was someone who got away because it was a prostitute, and when they were in the woods, she was on her knees because she was about to give him a blowjob, but he couldn't get erect. And because he couldn't get erect, he got pissed at her. And
She bit him.
that's what he told the officers when she went to go report the incident. The podcast I listened to didn't say that she actually bit him.
Oh, okay.
It just said that that's what he told the officers, and she ended up not wanting to pursue it because she was the lifestyle, the time. It was something that was just like, forget it. But it was to note that after that incident, after he couldn't get an erection with the prostitute in the woods that night, that's what helped him turn to necrophilia, and that's when he was able to, yeah.
Oh my gosh. So, this police department purchases a $115,000 computer to start inputting all the tips that they were getting. So I feel like this is where Facebook gets all the, what is it called? That's how they start inputting to give you all the information to see what they can blast at you as far as,
all the algorithms and everything.
So anyway, they were desperate. So by the end of 1984, the remains of 28 bodies had been recovered and 16 were still missing. And these quotes, guys, are actually from Gary. He says, I just loved killing women. I didn't have no morals. Conscience didn't stop me. I wanted to be the best serial killer out there. It was just a killing spree going for the count. I want 100 this year. Y'all, he didn't even bat an eye. He didn't get emotional. I just feel like y'all remember one of those quotes from, oh shoot, what was his name? H.H. Holmes, where he said the devil was inside of me. I truly felt like the devil was inside of this man, the way he was talking. One of the investigators, hold on, I'm getting ahead of myself. So by the start of 1985, the investigation had been ongoing for 2.5 years, and things had slowed down. And they were hopeful that the Green River Killer was gone and done. But this was far from the truth. In 1985, Gary met Judith, and he claims that Judith was one of the major reasons he stopped murdering. So, guys, if y'all are counting, this is his third wife. Mm-hmm. And Judith moves into his home, and she's sleeping in the same bed that he killed all these women on. And he also claimed that it bothered him very much at night, and he cried that she was sleeping on that bed where he committed all these murders. He said, this is what was crazy. He said that in the middle of the night, this woman appeared to him, and immediately he wanted to burn his house down and get rid of all the spirit of the women that were haunting in that house. So while he's loving being married, they keep finding all of these women in the woods. In late 1985, 36 bodies had been found, and no suspect, and 5 were still missing. So one woman was able to escape, and in a picture lineup, she and another girl identified him. So you're talking about the one that you were talking about, and then another girl that was able to escape. They identified him. In April of 1997, Gary was questioned. They served a search warrant. They went in and did forensics on the house, as much forensics as possible on the house. And they also questioned Judith at work. They found no evidence whatsoever. And y'all, in this documentary, he's like, they weren't going to find anything. He was pretty confident that he wasn't going to get caught. So guys, he gets cleared again for the second time.
Second time.
There is a detective in this episode, or actually all the detectives, but there's one detective, because whenever they cleared Gary again, he quit because he was like, he was the guy that did it. And so he was just so emotional about it. He's like, I felt like I, wasn't good. He just had all these emotions with it. So the case goes inactive for 14 years. Thankfully, they'd been able to pull DNA off the bodies. At the time of Gary's arrest, the detective that was super emotional about it, he did swab Gary for saliva, and they did have it. They did have all of the evidence compiled or whatever. And in 2001, the DNA had a hit. So the detectives, they said, yeah, we closed the Green River Task Force. We still had our bulletin board of all of the women that had been missing. They were like, yeah, it plagued us. It bothered us. So every now and then they would go over there and open the case file and they would look at it. And so they were so excited whenever they found the case. I'm sorry, the DNA. So they go back to this detective and they were like, we had a DNA match. Who do you think it was? And he was like, Gary Ridgway. And the guy, of course, he still beats himself up to this day about it. He's like, if we'd have stopped him then, how many deaths could we have prevented? So go ahead.
Only a few.
Only a few.
By then, because his heaviest year was 1984.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It was an ungodly amount of women.
Yeah.
Ungodly. And then the whole, so it made me think, because they say in 1985, that's when he met his third wife. That's when he got married. And it really looked like, honestly, the murders had stopped. They hadn't stopped.
They hadn't. Mm-hmm.
There was only trickles. Like the difference between how many he had in 1984 and then 1985, even forward, dramatically smaller. The disparity was so large. But I did wonder about this. I was thinking about this when I was driving last night, and I was like, why would they have gone down so low? What was it about this woman that was so powerful? I haven't looked up anything on her. I don't know. But I had to imagine, I was thinking, I wonder if she was as abusive as his mom was, or she loved having sex that much that she was able to satiate his libido, or some combination of the two.
That's what I thought. I mean, there must have been something. Of course, I don't have pictures of his mother for reference, so I don't know what she looked like. We do see pictures of Judith in this documentary. Raiyne, I don't know if you saw anything about what his mom looked like. Did she look like the wife Judith?
I don't remember.
Okay. So,
because he was emotional about her.
Yeah, she didn't believe it. Even after the DNA and stuff, she's like, I don't believe it. Like she was just blown away. And the fact that he murdered while they were married was also like, they would try to interview her and she would just close the door on them. I mean, rightfully so. Like you've been married to a murderer. Come on now. You don't want to be talking about that. So anyway, he killed more women than Bundy. He rated himself as the number one serial killer. So they're in this interview and they were like, how would you rate yourself? And he's like, oh, well, number one. I mean, he was proud of that title, y'all.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know. And just how cold he was about it. So the DA made a deal. They gave him a life sentence if he pled guilty. And so the PD also said they wanted to return all the girls to their families. So they took Gary out for a drive and he pointed out locations and described where and how they would be. And after several months, they were able to locate several bodies. So while in court, He pled guilty to 49 murders. He confessed to at least 70 murders. A lot of the family members gave impact statements. He did show some emotion, and in some instances, he did cry. So, like, one of the ones that they showed is where he expressed emotion was the daughter of Carol, the single mom that he murdered, and also another gentleman that says, "I forgive you for what you've done." So he did express emotion there. Gary received 49 life sentences with no chance of parole. And it is important to note that 33 of his victims were teenagers.
So he worked out a plea deal so that he wouldn't get death.
Right.
And he told him, you're looking for these amount. I'll give you all of mine if you take death off the table.
Right.
And so, oh my gosh.
Your kiddo.
Yeah. Oh, I don't like ketchup. Sorry.
She's going to do like that commercial, she's like, "Oh, I didn't want this." And they rub it at the end of the table and then hand it over to him.
Yeah. Thank you, baby. Sorry. Anyway, yeah, so he put that out there so that he wouldn't get life, or not life, death, whatever. Found all these things. It was interesting to note that even though he was below average intelligence, some of the things that helped him elude capture for so long were things that, for example, all of his murders, he took any type of jewelry or watches, all that stuff, he would take them off their bodies. And then, why they never found anything in his home? He wasn't a trophy keeper, but he would take those things to work and then place the jewelry in the women's bathroom. He said he got a high and he got a kick out of knowing that other women were wearing dead women's jewelry.
No way.
Yes.
That's crazy.
What are some interesting things that you found in your research, Raiyne?
Man, creepy.
Because I know you had a plethora of notes and you've not said a whole lot.
It was just where the one thing that got me was that it said that like his victims were as young as like middle school workers, or the sex workers, that they were in like middle school.
Wow.
And that makes sense. It's sad, but yes, that goes in line with
pedophilia, necrophilia. What else can you throw in there?
I don't know that he knew that they were underage.
And then like whenever he was in the military, I thought this was just gross. How he would, have sex with the sex workers, and he knew that he had
gonorrhea and syphilis.
Yeah, and he would keep having it, even though like he got mad at that sex worker, but he would still keep having
relations
with a bunch of other sex workers with no protection. So that I was like,
I know it's like, okay, so you're going to be mad, but you're still going to continue to spread it. Like it doesn't.
Yes, I told you, it's that thing that he's walking around with. It's like that. Can you keep walking around when you have that pent up frustration? Like, can you feel like you need to release that at times? You don't feel like you got to go kill someone, but you feel like you want to say that, and
like
you can do
say it. Like I've said it.
Right. But the truth of it is that there's that one level that we can relate with him on, is that when you have enough emotion or feeling or whatever you want to call that, enough of it, you feel like you need a release. Now, the difference being is that many of us, normal folks, don't need to go around killing.
Some of us go for a run.
Yes.
To hide some of us
just cry. Some of us yell. Some of us talk to a friend. But not all of us go out and kill to get that release. And then perform some sex acts with our dead.
And so some of the DNA that was found on these, that it was collected, because back in the 80s, we didn't have DNA. Okay. We didn't have that, but I'm glad the detectives were smart enough to hold that DNA. So in a couple of bodies, what he had done is he had put rocks he inserted rocks in some of the ladies' vaginas, and he claimed it was to keep them from floating up. And that's so they kept those rocks, and that those rocks had DNA on them. And so that's how we know, some of the things that he had done. And those same ladies, I want to say that he had broken their arms. So he was really trying to hurt them more. Pretty much like everybody had some unique something or other that he had done for them.
There was another
It
piece.
that he would strangle his victims by hand most of the time, or like using ligatures.
What I read was oh really?
Mhm.
I read a lot about what it was like he'd strangle them with his hands or arms.
Mhm.
There was something else. Oh, so another thing was he would actually, on some of the dead bodies, he would bring cigarettes and throw the cigarettes around the body to throw the police off. That was part of the whole thing with taking the jewelry too. Is the police? Oh, and then he would also take the bodies and drive them further away than where they were, and so he was methodically thinking up these things so that it would throw the people off from finding him.
So he was like dumb, but not that dumb.
So that was the weird part. I was like, was he really that dumb?
So his murder IQ was at genius levels.
Yeah, because so the first time that they came to get him, he took a polygraph test and
No
passed
way.
it. Yes. So they asked him about that, and he was like, I don't know. I didn't really plan anything for it. I just took it. I just answered. And they were like, what? And so he's talking about, he was like, I was just calm when they asked me the question. I was just calm. He passed it perfectly.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Y'all, this Gary Ridgway was something else. And if you want to watch that chilling thing, it's on Investigation Discovery. Pretty crazy stuff. It's also a rabbit hole. You can keep watching. I mean, so many, so many things. And there was also too, and I didn't read too much into it, but they think that the Ted Bundy case was also a reason why they solved Gary Ridgway's case. And I didn't read a whole lot, but yeah, that's another thing that was also said.
So the only thing I could find about anything extra outside of him was that he surprised his brother with this news. His brother was like, never would have pegged it. He goes, I
Really?
would have been the one. He was like, my brother and I are opposite. Like, he is the innocent, everyone loves, very just the guy you can depend on. I'm the one who gets angry and burst out and stuff. And you're telling me he did all that?
Oh, wow. I
And then,
wondered how they had felt about it. I really did.
and then, so Matthew was 26 years old when his father was arrested in 2001.
Oh my gosh. Does it say if he remembers anything?
Yeah, he remembered some things with the girls in the car and stuff like that. He just never questioned it and never knew that they weren't alive and other stuff was going on, he said. He was like, I just literally just oblivious.
Wow. Thank
That's
God for that.
crazy.
I wonder how normal he is.
I mean, I didn't find much, to be honest. I didn't look for much. I guess I'll
Yeah.
put it that way. But
Yeah.
the little that I did find, it didn't show that he was anything. There was a line in one of the articles that said, I mean, the son is just as normal as
That's,
you would hope. Nothing
yeah.
really fancy going on there.
Yeah. All right, guys. So we've come to the end of the Green River Killer. My fan, thank you so much for suggesting that to me. Jamie, do you want to talk a little bit about the Pineapple Project and see?
Yes, sure. So everyone, we've talked about this, the Social and Distancing Show production, Suds production. We wanted to give back for all of you that have always given to us to hang out with us, to come watch us and stuff. And we just want to try to make someone else's life better if we can. And so what we've done is we've created the Pineapple Project, and the Pineapple Project is our charitable arm with all the different shows. You know, we've got the Social Distancing Show, Sandy Talk Sheet, and the Strange Connection Show. And so what we want to do is we are going to help out this organization called Christmas is for Kids. It's in Lubbock, Texas, and what they do is they provide They provide gifts to children who are in the foster care system. And so we want to provide that. They have kids anywhere from baby newborns all the way up to 18. And so they have drop-offs all over Lubbock. We're going to get a
And
post
all the
out
comic cleaners.
at all the comic cleaners. So you'll be able to drop off these items there. We also created a Venmo right here that you could donate to. Anything you donate to there, 100% that is donated to this Venmo is going to Christmases for Kids so that they can purchase the gifts that they need, or will purchase the gifts that they want, whatever way is easier considering the way things are today, and to make sure that the kids get something. So if you have a little bit extra in your heart today, if you have Venmo on your account, download it. If you don't, download it and get it set up. It's real easy to do. Just look for @ThePineappleProject, and whatever money you donate there, like I said, we're going to give it back to the Christmas is for Kids for Christmas.
Thank you so much, Jamie. And we're excited about partnering with CPS and helping out our kiddos in foster care. This is your way to give back. This is you be the change that you want to see in the world. So with that, you guys, thank y'all so much for tuning in. I love each and every one of you guys. Raiyne, thanks so much for coming on. And guys, remember, let's keep talking sheet. See y'all
Have a good weekend, everyone.
Have a good weekend. Bye.